All right, can everybody hear me? I'm under very strict instructions to keep this microphone exactly where it is. Okay, so today we're going to talk about winging it, which is basically what I do every day. I also couldn't pick a title, so, pick whichever one sounds the most fun. This is me. This is a slightly older picture from when I was more full of life. My name's Alex Dodd. I work for a company called Attack Research out of New Mexico. There I've plugged to the company, and now I can start doing dumb stuff. I'm an Air Force veteran. I spent 8 years in the Air Force. I don't really do social media, but sometimes they give me the credentials for the company Twitter, and they're going to take them from me one day, I'm hoping. I also do a podcast, the most poorly scheduled podcast in history, with some of my other goon buddies, called The Cyber Idiots. Feel free to check it out. Down at the bottom, if you trust QR codes, which is a questionable decision, that will take you to the company site. There. All right, so the goals for this talk are kind of two-part. There's going to be some airline folks in here, there's going to be some hacker folks in here, and I'm going to try to work with both of you because they're just different objectives here. So for airline folks, we're going to talk about why doing this is important and why you guys should be doing this and or doing more of this. We're going to talk about how you can get it done. And for the hacker folks, guys, hacking stuff is fun, and it's going to be, I'm not going to lie, it's mostly going to be hacker stuff. Cool. Here's what I'm not going to do today. I'm not going to tell you who the airline is. They will be very mad at me. And I'm not going to tell you how to take down a plane. If that's what you're here for, don't. We're not going to talk about how to break the avionics and take down planes and really destroy stuff. But we do get to play with the avionics a little bit. So for the airline folks, why do you care? Actually, sidebar, because ADHD is a hell of a drug. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm going to come in under time. So help me keep the organizers from thinking I'm stupid and ask questions. Stand up, raise your hand, whatever, bring it on, help me fill a couple minutes. So for airline folks, there's no substitute for actually getting some hands on your equipment. You can send us a virtual machine, you can send us a heads-up display of what it's supposed to look like all day, and we'll get you good results. But I think everybody knows if you want real good results, put that equipment in my hands and I will find you more, newer, more interesting, better attack chains. Kind of the analog that I use there is, if you just inherently trust your web app library developers, your jQuery MooTools guys or whoever, you probably still add the website to your pen test scoping because it should still be looked at. This stuff still needs to be looked at even though your manufacturers, your OEMs told you, yep, we tested it. You want us to look at it again. You want more hands on it. You want more eyes on it. We're also going to talk some about the differences between the 737NG, which is a little bit older, and some of the newer platforms that some of the other guys in the company have gotten to play with. I haven't yet. I'm jealous. We'll get there. This slide's super short, man. Hacker folks love touching stuff. It's fun. There's no, much like there's no substitute for getting somebody else's hands to play with your equipment. There is nothing like getting to actually put your hands on somebody's toys and snap them in half and see what they do. So, how did we get here? We do a lot of work with the airline industry adjacent stuff. We do in-flight entertainment, we do payment card industry stuff. So we've got basically some homies around. We made some friends and they asked us if they wanted to come pen test on a 737 NG that they were basically getting ready to put in that big airplane squisher squasher, like they have at the dump for cars, but it's really big. I don't think that's what's actually happening, but I like to imagine it that way. This plane was being decommissioned. Please don't yell at me and tell me that this is now an invalidated airframe. It's not my airframe. They sent it to the squisher squasher. Yeah, don't yell at me. I'm fragile. We already reported to the airline. We already gave them an official report. None of this is new, responsible disclosure. I am a fragile man. I will cry. Also, I'm pretty sure the bosses only said yes to this because they knew we were going to burn the building down if we get an offer to go hack an airplane, and they told us no. That one was not going to work. So, again, two sets of goals. Attack Research is a business. We are a company and we try to do business things. So as far as my project, no, this pointer doesn't super work. My project manager, Brian, down there, We're trying to make some contacts. We're trying to do some business. We're trying to get some stuff, some drum up some business. I'm pretty sure I was not allowed to handle power tools on purpose. And personal goals, man, I wanted to cause panic on a plane. I wanted to figure out how to set the smoke detectors off. I wanted to drop those O2 bag things. I want to learn some new stuff. All those things that they tell us we can't do every time you get on a plane. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go do that stuff. So here's what we knew going into this operation. We're working with the 737NG, which stands for Next Generation. According to Wikipedia, they stopped making that thing in 2019. Obviously, they're starting to decommission some of these, so it's a little bit older airframe. It's been replaced with things like the MAX and other stuff. Some of our team has also managed to play with parts for the 777 and the 787. So we had a little bit of experience going into this, but I did not. I was kind of flying blind in this, which brings us to what we didn't know. I spent 8 years in the Air Force. Does not mean I know anything about airplanes. I don't. I fly what we called the mahogany bomber, which is to say a desk. I flew a desk. I have no idea what that is, except I know it's inside where like the landing gear rolls up, and that is chaos. I don't know what any of that stuff does. I don't know anything about the guts of the plane. So what we didn't know, all of that stuff. I also tried Googling things, and I was really worried that does anybody not know what the alphabet soup van is? Yeah, most of us know. All right, cool. My wife is here today. She was really concerned. This is my emotional support wife, Kim. She was really concerned that nobody was going to know who the alphabet soup van was, and that was going to fall flat. So I couldn't Google a lot of this stuff. How do you hack an airplane? Don't do that. It's probably just a bad idea. So we had to kind of go in blind. This is not where we normally do work. We don't normally go to a hangar in February and freeze. Normally I'm in somebody's lab and I'm playing with in-flight entertainment. I'm trying to trick the screen into doing something it's not supposed to, not trick the smoke detectors into going off. So this was a cool environment. It was different, it was new, it was novel. I have tried to block off all of the identifying features, so please don't make my life harder. They'll be very mad at me. My standard step one when I get to a location is like, what are the rules of engagement? Who's in charge around here? What do I do if I need tools? Here I got to add some fun stuff, like can I get on top of the plane when nobody's looking? And follow up. It's kind of high. How hard's that ground looking? We got to do all kinds of stuff here, though. We basically started ripping every panel off that plane, ripping everything apart, looking for anything that we could tie into, any Ethernet jacks. Just first couple days were destruction. It was awesome. Again, this plane was being decommissioned. If somebody brings you out for a plane that's not being decommissioned, don't break their toys. We did have some limitations that were set by the client. One of them was don't touch the engines. Don't touch them. Don't play with them. Don't mess with them. Apparently, and I don't know how true this is, airplane engines are like really expensive. And we were under very strict instructions not to break them because they wanted to keep them for spares. Also the LRUs, the line replaceable units, were kind of semi-off limits. Line replaceable units is an industry standard term to, from what I can tell, every industry for anything that belongs on the platform that we want to be able to swap out really quick and easy. So these guys live inside the maintenance bay. We did get to play with them, but we didn't get to really smash them. And the don't touch the landing gear apparently is a big one. I don't remember the exact configuration and set of steps that you have to go through, but theoretically, you can lower the plane to the ground while it's on the ground. So we would like, don't touch the thing. Don't. So those are the limitations that we were handed. The limitations that we kind of noticed as we got there, we're in a steel building. We got no cell signal, we got no Wi-Fi. Everything we're doing, we got to figure it out right there. We're gonna go stand outside in the rain in 40-degree weather and Google stuff on our phone real quick. So cell signal, Wi-Fi in the building, horrible. Cell signal and Wi-Fi in the cabin, 0. We did, and I'll talk about this in a minute, we did go outside and look stuff up and we had to make some calls and do some goofy, dumb stuff. But we had effectively 0 signal inside this target aircraft. The in-flight Wi-Fi runs off of the satellite. We're in a steel building. That doesn't work either. So nothing was working. No talkie. This is, I found this on, no, I made this. We're going to go through all the different sections of the aircraft that we went through during this engagement. We're kind of going to start in the cockpit and work around in a counterclockwise direction. There's not a lot on this slide, but I thought it was funny. So here's the sad part. We were not the only team on site doing this, and the other team had dibs on the cockpit. So I didn't get to play with it. It did mean I wasn't in danger of hitting the squisher squasher lever. This photo is from somebody's garage where they have built an entire flight simulator to look like a 737NG. So I thought it was actually just kind of fun. That is what the inside of the cockpit looks like. It is cramped, it is small. There is one access panel behind, I believe, the co-pilot seat. But we didn't get to play in there a whole lot. Directly under that are the maintenance bays where the LRUs live. The maintenance bay or the electronics and engineering bay or whatever your airline calls them. This is where all those LRUs live. LRUs are basically anything that requires a server. That server is this weird box shape and it lives in the E&E bay or the maintenance bay. It is cramped in there. It's real small, it's real tight. But we did manage to get in there. All of these LRUs that you can see there we did plug into, and we did try to do horrible things to them. But again, don't break those. Kind of limits what we can do to them. But these things control things like the air-to-ground communications, air-to-air communications, the stuff that's up there. My favorite one is the FADEC. That thing just calls my name. Full authority digital engine control. I want it. I want to play with that. We did not get to play with that. It was very sad. It's our cargo bay. That's our project manager, Brian, again. He gets to show up a couple of times in this presentation. I don't think he knows it. He'll be all right. There's not a lot going on in the cargo bay. It's a cargo bay. It's a box where they put, luggage and dogs and stuff. We did tear all these panels off. We did look behind them all, tried to find anything interesting. Not a ton in there. There are a couple of interesting things in there. The first thing, 4 extra super cool hacker bonus points that are imaginary. If you can tell me what's behind that one on the bottom right with the grid. Does anybody know what's behind that? Not you, you were there. That's where they keep the lavatory tank, and we put that panel back real fast. We were opening that, and the maintenance guys were like, hey, you guys know what's... Nope, no, put that back. Also, this one made me very frustrated at life. This is what the black box looks like. It's neither black nor a box. I don't know what to tell you guys. If we go back a couple slides, what you will see in the cargo bay, right above Brian's, again, this pointer's not the best on a projector screen, right above Brian's head there, those are the smoke detectors. And those things were calling my name real loud. So we tampered with the smoke detectors. Yes. Objective complete. These are running on a couple of interesting protocols. I expected them to be Ethernet. They're not. And it made our lives harder. We did try to get these things to set themselves off. Again, not really able to. And I've said that a lot of times, and I'm realizing that this is probably starting to get boring, because you're like, these guys didn't do anything. But we did learn a lot, so that's why we're here. Yeah, anytime federal law prohibits me from doing something, I'm tempted. So when we got an opportunity to play with these, yeah, I ripped these things off immediately when we found them. These guys, as well as some of the other components on the plane, run on this stuff. This is AirInc, RNIC. I've heard it pronounced several ways. Is there a right way to do it? No. AirInc? That's not how it's spelled. Oh, it is how it's spelled. All right. No, you're right. My bad. Sorry, man. I'm not going to read this to you because I copied it straight from Wikipedia. But basically, these are the data transfer and data loading protocols for all of the components that are not Ethernet or Cat5 or whatever on the plane. They're a twisted pair. And unfortunately, we did not have the hardware to handle that. Everything that we needed on this engagement, we were going to have to buy it on site or bring it with us. And we didn't know about this ahead of time, so we didn't bring anything with us. I kind of didn't know that ahead of time. So again, kind of got stonewalled on this one. Because the airline doesn't want anybody to know who they are, this is about the only photo I can show you from the cabin. Because airlines tend to put their logos and colors on everything. But you guys know what the inside of an airplane cabin looks like, right? Inside of the cabin, there are panels on the roof, there are panels on the walls, there's panels under the floor. And we started ripping these things off and we started finding these goofy little connectors, and we had no idea what these were. On the bottom left, these are some of the data loader cables that I talked about a second ago. On the bottom right was, I think, one of the only 2 RJ45 ports that we found on this aircraft. Everything else was connected by these other weird drum things, and I had no idea what these were. So we did what we do, and we pretended to be the lock-picking lawyer, and we bought a soda, and we cut some shims, and the maintenance guys laughed at us for a while. And eventually, they gave us the right tool, and we took these things apart, and we were able to figure out what they were. These cables are called Quadrax cables. We only figured that out after going to some really weird, sketchy websites that were not English. They're effectively a 2-pair Cat5 cable. They don't come out of those big drums very well, but those big drums hold 4 cables. And they're pretty slick, actually. I like them for what they are. They're really interesting. But you can cross these up to an RJ45. So we spent some time eventually, went to the local electronics store, got some Cat5 cables, cut them in half, talked to the maintenance guy, who took us in his golf cart at Mach 4, down to the other end of the hangar, found some electrical tape, pair of pliers, box knife, and some more sketchy websites, and we managed to figure out what the pinout for these cables were and what the pinout for the RJ45 was. And I did manage to make these cables. I was supposed to have one, but Brian, our dork project manager, wherever that guy went, he got injured and wasn't able to make it, so he did not bring my cable. That's all right. Yeah. So why are they using these Quadrax cables? Honestly, I think it's because RJ45 is just bad. They're terrible. How many people have broken those stupid little tangs off the back of them? And then you got to re-terminate the cable, and then you lose a couple inches every time you do it. Well, when you're on an aircraft and you don't have the luxury of an extra couple inches of cable, and I'll just kick my router over a little bit, you can't re-terminate these cables all the time, and they're not going to put 2 feet of maintenance loop at the end of every cable. They're just a better solution. Honestly, I like them. I was really mad at them at first because soda can shims didn't work, and dude, they should have. But at the end of the day, I think they're a better solution. They're pretty cool, actually. They're lighter. They're 2-pair instead of 4-pair. It's less copper. Every ounce counts. So yeah, they use these other cables, which are pretty cool. Basically, it was day 3 before we got to do hacker stuff, and not let's tear panels off and ask if we can play with the landing gear and throw open the emergency exit door. Before we actually were able to plug into something, make a cable, and do hacker stuff, it was kind of day 3 out of day 5, so we were behind the curve. But what we did find started to get really interesting. Obligatory hacker man slide meme. I'm pretty sure I actually saw that 3rd guy outside in the con earlier. So sorry if you're out there. What we ended up finding was we plugged ourselves in, ripped some panels off, made our janky cable, plugged into that thing, and started doing normal, recon stuff. We start doing TCP dumps. We start doing, scans. Start trying to log into things. We found that we were sitting in a series of 10x0s, whatever. It's a series of networks. This was stuff that is not meant to be seen. It's not stuff that you can get to from the passenger side. It's not stuff that you can get to easily unless you can manage to rip the panels off above the front lavatory and plug some cables in without the flight attendants tackling you. You're not going to get to the stuff easily. But it does exist. It is there. This is where we started to find things like the satellite modem, cell modems, all kinds of non-passenger friendly stuff lives inside these networks. Again, ADHD is a hell of a drug. We have a sidebar to deal with. Some of this stuff is like absolutely insecure. Admin password, I'm in 100% of the time. I think we found like one thing that didn't have admin or admin password on it. It was all of it. It was all the cell modems, it was all the switches back there, it was everything. Sidebar to my sidebar, I was mad at this stuff because it was like DOS. I don't have DOS implants on deck. I just don't have that stuff laying around. So I don't have exploits for stuff like this. I'm calling it security through obsolescence, and if this is you, stop it. This is not good. All right, so I'd like to share some stuff that we broke, because that's why we're here. We're gonna learn some stuff. This was the main switch about halfway through the body of the aircraft that we were able to find. Tons of those Quadrax cables into it, really got our attention real quick. So we plugged into this thing and we broke it almost immediately. Basically what we were doing was we were trying to mirror all of our traffic from every port on that switch back down our line on port 4 and sniff all of that. The problem is that router, or that switch, is not super smart. So when I say all ports, it said, yeah, including port 4? Sure. So let's take everything, let's stuff it down port 4. Stuff went down port 4, stuff that back down port 4. And we smashed this thing real fast. We destroyed the switch super quick because it just couldn't handle it. Recursion's a hell of a drug. It took itself down real quick. So then I went outside. I told you I'd tell you when I went outside. I go outside, I grab the URL off the top of there, and I just call this company. I'm like, hey, my name's Alex. I'm doing a security audit for an airline on an aircraft. I'm finding your equipment. Can you help me? I'm not social engineering these guys. I'm just asking for help. These dudes were awesome. They hooked us up. They sent me every PDF they had about this piece of hardware. They gave me the default creds. They told me how the telnet thing worked because it's not real telnet. It was some goofy thing. They hooked us up. It was great. This firmware, though, is from 2012. I think it was August 2012 when that firmware released. And 6net is not a thing anymore. I think they sold in 2000, actually, sorry, that slide's wrong. The firmware is from 2011. The company got bought by another company in 2012. So this stuff has been sitting on this plane since 2011. This company doesn't exist anymore, and it's not been updated. That to me kind of says a lot, so go check. If you're not sure what airline this is, assume it's you. Do you want this stuff on your aircraft? I do. All right, so I'm putting things in context of the attackers because that's what I do. So as far as how bad some of the stuff on the 737NG that we were playing with was, the 737 MAX can actually be worse. Again, I don't know a lot about aircraft. I was like, the MAX, that's the like ground one, right? But some of our guys have worked with the MAX in the past, and they've worked with the 777 and other aircraft. But we've talked to some of the maintenance personnel while we were working on the MAX, and they kind of filled us in on some of the details on how the maintenance tasking works. So some of the components on the MAX can actually accept commands via text message. If you know how to do it, you know the right place to do it, you can tell them to do stuff. And it's not like turn off the engines. But some of their maintenance tasks, some of their testing stuff can be done via text. There are a lot more RJ45s available, which isn't a huge deal, because you can turn RJ45 into Quadrax and you can make that work. But if I don't have to try and make it work on a plane, I just have the boop cable, life's a little bit easier. And then according to the maintenance personnel, again, this is not my aircraft. I am not an aircraft guy. So yes, it is secondhand information. But according to the maintenance personnel, a lot of the maintenance tasks on the NG, you have to physically plug into that component and take your laptop and tell it to do a thing. With the MAX, you don't have to physically plug in to that component. You can do it a little bit more remotely, which turns the entire maintenance laptop into an attack surface. Because if I can get on that, I can do things to your plane that you don't even have to plug into the part for, the component for. Parts are a weird word in this world because parts are what they call software packages. This is not what I mean by part signing, but I did think this was funny. Side note, again, everybody I know named Adam is actually an alright person. But that's the kind of stuff that I love to see. And I don't know if you guys can see it because it's real low. So parts signing, software package signing, is done on the NG by the manufacturer of the part, by the software package. They may or may not sign it. You load it on the component, you're good to go. You send it. On the Macs, the airlines are responsible for signing those software packages, which again turns your entire infrastructure for signing parts into an attack surface. The responsibility for defending those certificates and defending that signing process is with the airline now. So, yeah, like I said, I'm coming in under time. But my role here is not to cause panic, obviously. I'm not here to tell you that, hey, I can text a plane and make it crash. That's not how that works. But I want you guys as airline folks to understand that the attack surface has actually gotten bigger in a lot of ways for some of the newer platforms. I want you to understand it better so you can better defend it. That's the job, right? That's what we are supposed to be doing as the hacker types. I tell you what's wrong so you can do more defending of it. I'm not here to attack airlines. I'm not here to attack the OEMs or Raytheon or Boeing or whoever, right? Don't yell at me. And I kind of want you to think of it this way. If you're buying a switch for your office, you're buying a 737, you're buying a friggin' Abrams, whatever it is, you still need to make sure that your things are dealt with. You buy a switch for your office, you configure that switch. It's your responsibility. You buy a switch for an airplane, you still kind of got to configure that thing. You have to make sure that it stays up to date and it gets patched and it's all happy. Your distributors will plug it in happily for you and then walk away, and you might never see them again. And then you end up with software from 2011, which is, my math is bad in public, but that's been a minute. Yeah, so here's some of the sources that I've played with a little bit. Skyberry is actually really cool for a guy that knows very little about airplanes. You can look up what the heck is a FADEC, what are LRUs, all of that kind of stuff. They do a really good job at lining out what all of that stuff is. Yeah, I know there are regulations. I know there are, what do they call them, advisory circulars probably that are, hey, don't do this. But as airline folks, you might want to start looking into how do I get this done anywhere? How do I get these policies changed? Or how do I deal with this so we can make these changes so I can still do pen tests on a plane? Because there are still problems. Not on here, sources are like, I took pictures and stuff, we were there. I know it's not like a super great official source, but we did it. Obligatory David S. Pumpkin slide. I am happy to answer any questions. If I can't, I will make Alex Testa help me answer them. I guess I will get out of here. Thank you.